This is the instructional clinic for the 2016-17 Texas All-State Ensembles for horn. I'm going to be addressing the Kling Etude on page 50 of the Audition book. Mark for your tempo as slow as 112 or as fast as 128 for the eighth note. I'm picking for this exercise 118 for right now. It goes through just a little bit slow for me, but I'm doing this for illustrative purposes. One of the things that you need to do, first get the tempo going, turn the metronome off, hear that tempo. Click, 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 click. What I want you to do now, and you can do this with me, we're going to play the first 8 bars. And I want you to, instead of sustaining through these long notes, just play legato 8th notes like this. Often in slow music like this, I hear younger players get lost in the long notes. They have no idea where they are. They hold it for an indeterminate lengths, many times much too short, sometimes long. So you always need to make sure where that interior pulse is. So let's turn the metronome on, and let's do this together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Beautiful melody, beautiful. Notice my breath in 6, and rather in measure 6. You're going to have to really make a quick, deep breath. So now, these are 8th notes. I'm going to put the half count on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what you're going to have to do in measure 6, when we get to the C, is take a breath in between these clicks. Make it a little game. It's a quick inhalation, almost like if you've had or seen a brother or a neighborhood kid that gets surprised by something, especially on Christmas morning. They see a present, they go, "Oh boy," or something like that. That's the kind of air you need to take in. A quick gulp of air, completely relaxed, and you're going to have enough to make the end of the phrase. Another thing that I hope you noticed is how I turned those grace notes. You need to accent or bump these a little bit more so they come out of the texture. It's almost a little gypsy-esque if you ask me. Now let's look at the next 2 lines, measures 9 through 16. We have a modulation here. We're now in B flat major. And notice the dynamic is now a little bit louder. Here, we need to place the grace notes earlier. Playing them too late or on top of the figure not only makes it violent, but also if you play it too quickly and too close, it actually sounds like you're making a mistake or you're missing the note. So make the ornaments non-violent. The slur with the dot articulation that occurs in 11 and 13 can be a little bit confusing. Really, it's an articulated slur, which you could play legato. If you want to play it with a little bit more style, you can play it legato with a little bit of a push. So if I was going to slur this, I would do it again with just the slightest bit of lean on each of those notes. And then I put the legato tongue with it. So we have a very nice style change. I recommend in measure 14, you take a breath after the B flat. That is, unless you can make it all the way through that 4-bar phrase. But if you need a safety valve, you can always take that breath after the B flat and before the 8th note C, which you can use as a pickup into the next bar. It makes more musical sense. Otherwise, I think it sounds like a run-on sentence. I like to put one in there anyway, just for the musical taste of it. Look at 17 to 24. There's a lot of stuff that happens right here. I can almost guarantee you they're going to be using this section, or at least part of it. I would break the first measure down, beat by beat. Just use pitch memory. Surprise! Now, if we regroup, instead of thinking down, up, down as one group, down, up, down, look at the notes directionally in one unit as all going down. 2 notes go down, 3 notes go down, 3 notes go down, and finally 2 notes go down. As you get faster and faster, if you start having execution problems, then I would recommend doing a form of practicing. I like to say arrhythmic practicing or note crowding. I would play short, long, short, long, short, long, short. Then switch it around. And make these transitions really quick. Then turn around. Then when you put it together, you've practiced it much faster, but only not consecutively. As we approach the last measure of that line, measure 20, you have a G trill to A flat. There's really no good way to do this. If you play it on traditionally, like F horn to B flat horn, second and third, it's really muddy and bumpy. You could decide to do it all on F horn. That's more palatable getting into it. And what I would do, if you decide to do that, the concluding eighth note, the concluding A flat 16th note, I would go ahead and play that on the F side, so you can have a smoother transition. I was giving a clinic on these and other etudes down in the Dallas system, and a horn teacher there told me of another solution that works really quite well. On that trill, play that trill on the B flat horn, going from first to second. Then what I would recommend when you do the termination to the E flat, just stay on the B flat horn so that the F sharp is 1 and 2, going back to the first finger G that you've played, and then stay on first finger for the E flat. On this trill, you got to make sure you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 1. Make that termination on the 6th, 8th note. What you might want to do is stop the trill a split second before you do the termination. Maybe stop the trill on 5. 1, trill, 2, 3, 4, stop, ba-da-dee. Then, at 21, you have a series of arpeggios. There is an easier way to do this should you want to do this. Once you play the G at the downbeat of 21, for the remaining notes in that beat, the next beat, and the beginning of beat 3, you could do this all trigger 1. At 22, just before you get to the fermata, if you want to do just the slightest bit of pullback, I think here you can do this. You shouldn't run off the edge of the cliff into a long note. You got to prepare. Bum, ba-da-dee, bop, beep, bop, bum, just only maybe for the last note or two. Then you're looking at, okay, what happens next? Well, this is a little cadenza. So you hold on, and then ad lib means at liberty. You go do that first figure, then you have a series of trills, then you get into another fermata, and then you have a cascading figure down to yet another fermata. Let's do one of these at a time. I'm all for making things easy. So once you get to this fermata, you have a series of half steps, and they can all easily be played on the B flat horn, going from 1 and 2 to 1. I would prefer, for myself, the F horn for the low the lower B flat. It sounds a little more beefy. And you can do it slow, accelerate for a little bit, and then perhaps pull back. Just experiment, play it different ways. Variety. Just experiment with it. Just play around with it. See what you like. This is looking to see what your individual musicality is. Now you have a series of trills. The first trill should be on the F horn first finger. So your B flat to C. What I recommend with each of these trills is start slowly, bar of quarters, going to eighths, going to triplets, going to sixteenths, and if you want to go further than that, go to sextuplets. But it's once you get the oscillation over the crack between the two notes, it's going to be a lot easier to control. So just find that little wiggle. So you're on the low side of the high note, the high side of the bottom note. Just sort of walk that little tightrope on either side. Then the next trill, the C, C to D. Again, I would stay on the F horn open. The next trill, the D, we always need to stay within the key that we're in. So we're playing a D. The next highest note is E flat because we have a flat in the key signature. So on a half step trill, we have to use the valve. So I'm going to take a slow tempo, but I'm not going to do the trills just yet. I want to get my little notes in between. Even though they're written as half notes, you don't really have to play them as half notes. Give yourself a break. So you have a link of 4 notes to 2 of those trills. So make sure that you feel like you're landing on the downbeat on that first trill. So the first 2 notes are a pickup. And then you have a preparation to the pickup. So think about that, landing on the C as a beat, as on the primary beat. Now we're at the next arpeggio. It always seems to me easier if you can group these figures like this into some semblance of order, X amount of notes per beat. So I look back knowing that I'm going to be arriving on the B flat. I count back using the B flat as 1, 4 notes, 4 notes back from the B flat is the D, the note right before the bass clef. Then I count back another 4, then there's a beat on the D. So in other words, you have a pickup note F into 4 notes, then 4 notes, and then you end on another beat on the fermata. Now let's look at the bass clef notes. This might be new for some of you, and you can say, gee, how come we're jumping that low? Well, this is written in old notation, and that first note that we have in bass clef is a B flat, by the way. If you don't know how to read bass clef, the lines go G, B, D, F, and A, and then your spaces are A, C, E, and G, going from bottom to top. So your bass clef notes down there are B flat, A flat, F, and then D. And it's the B flat right below middle C. One of the reasons they use old notation bass clef is that if they use this, what we call regular or new notation, that B flat would be up right above that staff, and visually that's a great distance. So old notation, even though you're playing the same notes, it's visually easier according to the old mode of thinking. So you have these four notes: B flat, now if you want to play the F, the low F, on your trigger instead of first, go right ahead. But when you play the D on the fermata, I really would, if you were my student, I would insist that you play it on the B flat horn, because 1 and 3 on a valve brass instrument is tremendously sharp. I just sort of walk it down. Fermata, pick up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And you can play around with that if you like. Then we have a series of dotted 8/16. I really like to stretch that C fermata a little bit, and when I do, I almost invariably run into problems, and so I put that breath either where they have it or after the E. I sort of like it after the long E. Because the E is really the tonic. E dot E. Then you have a little short note flourish as a little dessert after the end. When you play the low E flat, you use your trigger first. It's a little easier, especially if you're running low on air. Because second and third, even though I like the color of it, it responds much more difficult. So I'll play this cadenza one more time in its entirety. Yeah, guarantee you there's going to be judges. Once you've set your tempo up, on that last note they're going to be going 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, off. Don't fall into that trap. Many good players haven't passed on because of little things like that. So When somebody says don't sweat the details, here you need to sweat the details. Good luck, and please look at our other videos in this series. Thank you again.